Hey y'all, it's Brandon with Voodoo Forge, and today we are going to be making a chop fuller. This is a tool that you can make in your shop, and what this is used for is sometimes you need to fuller a small area on a piece of steel, either to isolate a piece or for a decorative feature, or there's countless reasons why you'd want to do this. These have been fullered on a couple of my chop fullers. Now I realize that now the guillotine type fullers have become much more in vogue, but I've always liked chop fullers because they're easy to make. You can usually make them out of material that you have on hand or is easily defined. And you can just make them out of mild steel. And even though the ones that I'm making are welded together, you don't have to weld to make one of these. You can hold the whole thing together with bolts. So let's get a couple made. Alright, this is the starting material for our two chop fullers. I've got 1 out of 3/8 material and 1 out of 1/4 inch. And it's basically the same kind of setup. I've got a piece of 10 inch long, 4 inch. On the 1/4 inch, it's 10 inch long by 2 inch, 1.5 inches on the 3/8. And then 7 by 2 inch on the 1/4 and 6.5 by 2 on the 1/4 because the 1/2 inch is less there. A piece of 3/4 square so you can use it in the hardy, and then just a little piece of flat scrap which will go on here, and that's for using it in a vise. But the first thing that we have got to do is get our we got to get a few holes drilled. We'll drill the ones in our pivot first. Okay, so I've marked our two pivoting pieces. This is 1 inch in and 3/4 up on the 1.5 inch piece, and 1 inch in, 1 inch up on the 2 inch. And then we're just gonna center punch them. Then get those drilled. Yeah, I'm a big fan of drilling pilot holes first. Now we got these two holes drilled. The next thing we're going to do is weld one of these plates on the one side of this. So let me clean this up. We're going to weld our first brace on. I've got it clamped to the base material, and then I've got our pivoting arm underneath the end to support it. You want to make sure it's good and square, and then we'll tack this on. We're going to take our pieces we tacked, turn them over, set them on top of the piece we got cut to the other end. Take our arms, and I'm going to use a piece of junk mail as a shim. There we go. That gives me about 1/8 of an inch, give or take. It's not super important. A transfer punch and mark to drill that out. One thing to keep in mind when you're doing this, if your bit walked a little bit and you've got a fatter side, make that the bottom, because we're going to have to cut some off of this to make it be able to pivot here. About this after I drilled one of the holes, but it's not necessary for my purposes, but you may want to put a couple more holes in higher to make your chop fuller adjustable. That'll make sense later, I swear. Just go ahead and do it now. Your piece back over here. You're going to set it down with something to keep everything level. So another piece of 1/4 inch stock right here. You're going to throw that up there, and we're going to weld on our other side plate. Make sure it's square. We're just tacking it on, so we don't have to get too crazy right now. That tacked down should look like this. And you're going to flip it over, transfer punch time again, and we're going to mark that side. If we can figure out where we put, there it is, right there in front of me. I'll mark I'll mark this side, and we're going to drill it. Now we got our holes drilled, so now we need to start taking off some of this. Yeah, it varies as to how much you've got to take off. I'll use a cutoff wheel to do this over here. Alright, moment of truth. Yep, that works. So now we can weld that one. Let's take a break for a minute and talk about this video's sponsor, Bocomal. Y'all probably noticed me wearing this nifty new shirt. Well, this is Bocomal's summer lightweight vented flame resistant shirt. Vented. Vented. Vented! Safety is important in this line of work, and it is rare that safety and comfort are combined. Forging, welding, fabrication, they're all hot. And this new shirt by Bocomal is a perfect combination of safety and flame resistance. That's mesh. It lets your pits breathe. And I gotta say, it looks pretty fly too. Bocomal has tons of innovative flame resistant options that they've got sweatpants. They've got flame resistant sweatpants. It meets HRC2 standards and the requirement of the NFPA 2112. Also meets NFPA 70E, ASTM F1506, and CAT2 standards. One of the things I like about it is it can be washed up to 100 times and maintain its fire resistance. That is 100 days of work. Think about an article of clothing that's going to get you through 100 days of work. You can see me wearing this throughout the video, cutting, forging, welding, and the thing's just bomb-proof. So if the work you do or your employer requires you to have flame-resistant clothing, check them out. There'll be a link in the description. Okay, now let's check this one. Don't foresee any problem. So that one works. A lot of oil on here from where I drilled these holes, so I'm just going to clean it up, wipe it down a little bit with acetone so that we don't just, you know, purposely have bad welds. If I have bad welds, I want it to be completely on accident. Now we're going to put the acetone far, far away from here. We're almost done with the welding. We've got to weld our piece on that goes in the hardy so we can use it on an anvil if we want to. Well, I'm just tacking that on. Now to use it in a hardy, you just drop it in. It's ready to go. Now the absolute last piece for welding on is this little guy right here. And all he does is we can lock it in a vise and use it, and it just keeps it from slipping through the vise. Welding's done, so for the last little bit we're going to radius part of the edge on the bottom of the chop fuller and the top, which this is up to you how much you radius. You can radius the whole thing. I'm just going to radius part of it, that way I've still got a kind of a squared off fuller here and a rounded fuller on the ends. Last step, once it's radiused, is putting it together. Now I've used grade 8 and grade 5 bolts for this. This is just regular hardware. It doesn't really matter because they're all going to wear out. So have an extra one on hand and you can just get it finger tight. Yeah, let's use it. Okay, this anvil is in the shop specifically for hardy tools. That's what we use it for. And I've got the 3/8 chop fuller in the vise. Let's get some material warm. Try our 3/8 first. Ooh, I'm actually having a little trouble getting in here. That worked perfect. Now let's come over here to our quarter. That's the way we want her. Alright y'all, that is all there is to it. And like I said, you can make these without welding. You just drill a couple of holes and put bolts in here. And that one, of course, won't have a shaft for your hardy hole, so you're going to have to put it in a vise, but it should be fine. Or you can get somebody to weld a stop on for you there. What is it, shaft, stop? What do you call that piece that goes in the hardy hole? I'll be wondering about that. But that's all there is to it. Like I said, the guillotine type fullers have kind of taken over. More people use those, but this is another option that is pretty easy to construct, pretty simple to understand. And for somebody just starting out, this is a tool project that you can make with minimum skill and actually have something accomplished at the end of the day that you're going to be able to use for years. Now, it's not going to last forever. Like I was talking, the bolt that it pivots on, that's going to wear out. And other parts of it can wear out. You just made it out of mild steel, but that's fine. They're easy to make. If I didn't have to video this whole process would have took about an hour. So that's it. Y'all tell me what you think. What kind of fuller do you use in your shop, or do you fuller anything? Do you know what I'm talking about? What do you think about what I'm talking about? Let me know in the comments. All right, y'all behave yourselves. I'm digging my new shirt, but go have to get some patches on it. I'm feeling like Steve Irwin over here.